The Son Goku arc narrated an adventurous quest with the main purpose of introducing the main cast, while the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai inspected one of the prime motives of the show's success: battles, as Goku, Kuririn, Yamcha and Kame Sennin competed in a tournament to find out who's the strongest martial artist, also managing to partially raise the bar. Not bad for a manga originally planned as 1 year stand. So Toriyama immediately had to come up with an idea for the next arc, in which Goku might experience another adventure like the first arc, but this time implementing the brawls that make Dragon Ball so popular, as seen in the 21st Budokai, with the main goal of finding the 4-star Dragon Ball, his grandfather's memento. On paper it does sound like the most complete arc so far, as well as the longest, boasting 43 chapters overall, and of course the last arc to be published before the beginning of the anime on December 20th, 1985. It's also a bit divisive amongst fans, either admiring it or not caring for it on the slightest. Personally, I remember preferring Toriyama's original source over the anime, because Toei began an infamous trend across this arc. During the first arcs, I listed the various changes implemented in the TV series, which mostly received my praise since they actually added new stuff, new info and new character moments, and if they ever altered some canon scenes, they would do everything to adapt their changes to the main events. Up to now I've complained about a few running gags, only because they kinda bother me, like the exasperation of Lance's sneeze gags or Muten Roshi's deprivation, but all in all, the anime's quite improved the canon story most of the time so far, with the 2 first arcs acting as virtuous examples. Unfortunately, the Red Ribbon arc represents the moment in which Toei officially got too carried away and slowly began jumping the shark. And you may think, jumping the shark after only half a year? Well, it is indeed doable, but if you heard me closely, I said slowly began, which means Toei did commit some unfortunate mistakes, but without the same tacky intentions they would bring up in a few years. Why would I say that? Because A, the story isn't taking itself too seriously yet, and B, Toei writers were erring in good faith because the animated Red Ribbon arc aired on September 10th, 1986, right after Goku rematches Tao Pai Pai in the manga, so to put it simply, they were narrowly catching up with Toriyama's work. Therefore, unlike in the first arcs, the events of chapter 55 aren't reproduced immediately, as episodes 29 to 33 are 100% anime exclusive, yet still introducing the main bad guys of this arc, the Red Ribbon Army, whose main goal is to gather the 7 Dragon Balls to let Commander Red grant a precise wish. But let's forget about this wish for now and proceed to finish chapter 54 we left on a cliffhanger last time. The 21st Budokai came to a close, the gang intends to go separate ways, and Goku is willing to experience another quest to find his grandfather's Dragon Ball all by himself this time, because Oolong isn't inclined to follow him again. Seems reasonable. Interesting how this conversation is handled in such diverse ways, as the manga sets it at night inside Yamcha's car, while the anime sets it outside the Budokai entrance the morning after Goku's moderate dinner, in what's one of the longest prologues of the entire series. I'm unsure about why Koyama would change the original setting, but seems fairly reasonable since there was no more room for it in the previous episode, due to a much larger portion of Goku facing Jackie Chun, so it would make more sense to shift this passage to the following episode. Still, that's not the main motive, since unlike in the manga, Muten Roshi actually declines Yamcha's lift because he wants to buy Lunch a new pair of panties. Ho ho, that's so original. The fact he pretends to have a granddaughter might sound like a callback to the first Doctor Slump chapter, in which Senbei dresses up as a woman to buy Raleigh some underwear so that he won't be regarded as a pervert. Interesting analogy, but Senbei's kit worked better since his fear of being publicly ridiculed made him face an awkward situation he wanted to avoid. Whereas Muten Roshi's case is awkward because he doesn't mind being awkward. In fact, it's in his very element. Simple as that. Besides, I'm sure if it's a relevant detail, but the anime lets us know he would enjoy Lunch's lonely company willingly by narrowly pulling a DiCaprio move. As much as a twisted idea it is, at least it's legal because she's 18, so I guess it's okay. Shh. So Goku departs on his skin tone, and the last panel of chapter 54 illustrates Yamcha's ordeal, as Bulma lost her airplane capsule somewhere and they're running out of gas, which is further explored in episode 29, where the gang has to cross a vast desert again and has to withstand its high temperatures. So Koyama is indeed recycling a past filler segment of episode 14, also bringing up the fact Oolong cannot stay transformed for more than 5 minutes, because he was kicked out for stealing his teacher's panties unlike Puar, which we already familiarized a while ago, but I do have to acknowledge Yamcha's even handsome men make mistakes punchline is pretty funny, as a response to Bulma's previous even beautiful women make mistakes. Nice! With chapter 54 out of the way, we can finally start the Red Ribbon arc. Except we can't, since the events of chapter 55 are actually reprised in episode 34, therefore 5 filler episodes are waiting for me, and like someone would say, no filler left behind. So be more patient as we have to head back to episode 29. In the actual aftermath of Namu's Budokai trip, in which he brings water to his village, but doesn't fully solve their precarious conditions, as his village is enduring a drought, rains are sporadic and water never flows downstream due to a dam obstructing its flow. And where is this dam located? Giran Land, a territory inhabited by Giran and his lookalikes. A territory that exists only in the anime. Because there is no such thing as Giran Land in the manga, as debunked in chapter 140, in which Tamuri murders Giran in a panda village. On top of that, Toei would replicate it by also underlining the same heinous attitude displayed in the 21st Budokai, which might mean, hey, Toei may have done it of their own mind once, but they're following the author now, so no issue here. But for some reason, Giran Land would make another cameo in the Buu arc while they're giving their Genki to Mr. Satan. Are Toei writers that scatterbrained or just plain spiteful? At any rate, this episode represents the Koyama archetype, with plenty of callbacks to the canon story that become the plot itself, like Goku rescuing Namu from that pterodactyl. Okay, not sure if it's the same pterodactyl, but that's clearly the splitting image of the first chapter, no doubt about it. Or Goku patting Namu's crotch because an entire year of Muten Roshi's lessons wasn't sufficient for him to tell apart boys from girls. As for the content itself, the insight of Namu's situation after the Budokai is fine and all, but I just find this episode pretty sloppy. As whenever they bump into an obstacle such as a pterodactyl, the dam, and even the pointless dust storm, they always seem to find the most simplistic solution to overcome them. A dam obstructs the water flow, nobody can break it, but Goku Kamehamehas and quickly solves the problem. That's an ingenious idea! The dust storm is supposed to show up as an upsetting event that may actually doom Namu's village, except it doesn't. Because they conveniently spot a magical lake that makes the whole episode entirely pointless by default. The bar is raised as much as in a Dora the Explorer episode, though it's got one positive, the introduction of a new package of Shunsuke Kikuchi's tracks, M100, aka the Red Ribbon soundtrack, which improves the overall mid-performance of the first 2 packages, also introducing one of his recurring instruments, Juice Harp. Now Kikuchi's definitely raising his bar with some pretty solid tracks like the Mystery Army, Super Split Form, one of the main Red Ribbon battle themes, the underrated Murasaki on the Run, amazing bassline and panpipes, Scatterbrained, another very nice piece, the great All Is Hopeless, and the best one of the bunch, Goku and Chi-Chi to the rescue. Unfortunately, I happen to dislike the Water Returns, which is what a happy track mustn't be. Saccharine. Sounds quite annoying in fact. Besides, this episode introduces one of the many insert songs of Red Ribbon arc, which is played during Goku and Namu's journey, the groovy Fujiki Wonderland, which sounds kinda generic and glazed. The Waku Waku during the chorus is truly nothing new. Makafujiki Adventure has that too, and is it me or I hear a cheesy mixture between ABBA and Earth, Wind and Fire during the bridge? That's just tacky. Fortunately, the following insert song playing in episode 30 is so much better. After all, you get Hiroki Takahashi, the singer of Makafushigi Adventure and Mezase Tenkaichi, a more appetizing arrangement, and the result is Dragon Ball Densetsu. Not a top tier song like Mezase, but remains very nice. At least it doesn't sound like a cheesy 70s-esque disco impression. As for the plot, it indeed introduces the new enemies, the Red Ribbon Army and Colonel Silver, and brings back Pilaf and his gang before the canon comeback in chapter 109, which wasn't particularly necessary to be frank. Sure enough, I did tolerate Pilaf's sticks in the first arc, but I'm definitely not as lenient this time around. I just don't like him, he's annoying, his cutaways make me snooze and bring absolutely no functionality to the narration. So, a stinky tramp steals Goku's clothes, Nyoibo and Dragon Radar, the latter of which is given to an antique shop crook, mistaking it with a clock. He did it before Vegeta, who robs Pilaf by giving him a fake Dragon Ball that is a common glass sphere in actuality. Of course, Goku bumps into him and Mai and chases them, since he believes he took Son Gohan's 4-star ball, and I guess he's also dumb enough to ignore the radar wasn't giving any sort of signal nearby, but more like upwards, since the 6-star Dragon Ball turns out to be located in a nest. The very next episode brightly points out Goku's inattention, which does nothing but doubt the relevance of the filler further. I would normally commend the anime for its filler continuity, but I just can't. This chase remains useless. Pilaf realizes the ball is a fake, so he glues all the glass shards together to deceive Goku again, which is again pointless as he too finds out it was a fake. The real Dragon Ball, on the other hand, happens to be inside a pterodactyl. Jesus, does Toei have a thing for pterodactyls and dinosaurs in general? Which Gyumo is serving as a main course for Chi-Chi's marriage. He's so obsessed. This portion is clearly anime only as well, because Chi-Chi would appear only in the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai in the manga, and Gyumo right during the Saiyan arc. Accordingly, on one hand, Toei updating Mount Frypan upon the first arc isn't a bad idea after all, as well as displaying Gyumo's more affable behavior. He's even reluctant to agree to Chi-Chi's wedding, as she's too young for that, rightfully, which lasts only a few seconds as he removes any trace of doubt and agrees to let her become Goku's bride. He's so obsessed. But Pilaf decides to disguise Shu as Goku to trick Gyumo, as the 6-star Dragon Ball is hidden amongst the food. But the banquet is interrupted by Red Ribbon, who tracks and traps Gyumo inside a net like a cod. I got to say, while episodes 31 and 32 aren't as sleep-inducing as the other couple, it's still a bit discouraging Toei writers already have to recycle past ideas to create their content, such as Pilaf reading Mago Gozora instead of Son Goku like in the 21st Budokai, Chi-Chi grabbing Goku's tail like in the first arc, Chi-Chi roasting the army while crying in peril like in the first arc, Pilaf's secret base resembling the prison of his castle, and Goku chasing his gang like in the anime adaptation of the first arc. I'm noticing a pattern. At the very least, Segashi animators kinda redeem episode 32, making it the most enjoyable of the bunch hands down. Takeo Ida and Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru's final contribution before the movie elevates the climax of this episode as they would join Studio Junior in episode 50, becoming Maeda's early fortune. Moreover, we won't need to put up with Pilaf's nonsense for a while, as Silver snatches the 6-star Dragon Ball he stole from the banquet, thus putting an end to his role in this arc. All in all, their pathetic self-awareness is admittedly kinda funny, but I do believe the story would progress regardless of their presence. Oh, almost forgot. This episode spoils Goku thinking marriage is some kind of food, thus making this misunderstanding a bit more far-fetched in a future arc, because here Chi-Chi actually tells him marriage cannot be eaten. In other words, considering Toriyama has yet to plan a 23rd Budokai, does it mean he's going to borrow this anime portion for such an occasion? I know I'm wasting time discussing filler material, but I swear this is the last one for now, which also happens to be my favorite of the bunch, because it nourishes my will to debate and encourages dialogue. But not for the reasons you might imagine, as I claimed it as a favorite of mine, but for the wrongest reasons. First off, episode 33 all of a sudden cites the Rocky film series, as it exhibits Silver practice and challenge nameless fighters to a boxing match, because he's apparently into boxing somehow. Then we encounter another Dragon Ball, the 5-star one, located in a monkey forest, first being threatened by a saber-toothed tiger, which looks like a panther but that's essentially a recolored tiger, then by the Red Ribbon Army burning their forest, and by a Bacterian look-alike. Seems innocuous up to now, but the best has yet to be revealed. Lastly, the episode cuts to Kame House, with still no Umigami. Just how long does his vacation last? And since Muten Roshi forgot to take his pills, he tells Korean Lunch the legend of the Dragon Balls, according to which the 7 Dragon Balls were originally just one big spear, but due to the mankind's selfishness, the gods punished them and divided the big ball into 7 balls scattered all around the globe. One big ball. One big ball. You know, it's retrospectively a very easy target, since Toshiki Noe was surely bold and confident to write a proper backstory of the 7 balls out of thin air. Given that God's character wasn't even the author's mind in 1986, I suppose expecting a toy writer to intercede for him at this very stage doesn't come out as immoral, since you can easily deduce he acted in good faith. Accordingly, my argument doesn't rant about a one-ball retcon, but more like about Muten Roshi suddenly knowing the so-called story of the Dragon Balls inside out, and most likely knows how they function, despite originally mistaking his own ball with a necklace in the first arc. How bloody convenient he's now able to explain their background without reading up beforehand. My bet is he made it up. And these were the fillers. Now we can finally move on to chapter 55, in which Goku finds the Dragon Ball Silver Sandman couldn't spot, who clearly proved to be no match for him, so Silver bumps his skin tone and prepares to fight Goku in the following chapter. Considering the past pillar, the TV series obviously had to change the number of stars within, since he finds the 6-star ball in the manga, which Silver already took away from Pilaf in episode 32. So he now encounters the 5-star ball once located in the monkey forest. They were quite capable of adapting the anime-old events into the canon story, which wasn't to be taken for granted, so decent job. So, Goku isn't that keen on facing Silver, as the latter attempts to attack him whilst walking away, only to be tail-slapped out of his sheer humiliation. Yeah, frankly, amongst the Red Ribbon characters, Silver is clearly the blandest. While he doesn't get to do much in the manga, the TV series hasn't actually done much to make him engaging either, in spite of receiving a lot more time on screen. If you call threatening innocent people or beating your enemies in a boxing match an actual effort, then I'm out of here. He's pretty generic. To prove my argument, once Commander Red, introduced in chapter 56, learns about Silver failing his mission because of Goku, he loudly sentences him to death penalty, whose execution won't be displayed or even mentioned again. That's how worthless Silver is. Conversely, the TV series takes more liberties by having Red call Silver to his office just to scold him for failing his mission and without mentioning death penalty whatsoever. He simply orders his soldiers to take him away, whose only consequence is Silver's pathetic whining. "Please boss, give me another chance! Don't touch me!" And suddenly I understand why Toriyama didn't cite him any longer, because the TV adaptation puts him in a far worse light. That's just lame. Even Black's expression is like, what the fuck is going on? Besides, because Red is sitting down here, there can be no hint of his inferiority complex while standing beside Black, for being shorter than him, which will eventually play a big role in the entire arc. Kenji Utsumi, after Shenlong and the Budokai announcer, voices Red as well, while Black is voiced by Masaharu Sato, the current seiyuu of Muten Roshi. Speaking of Red, his hair is oddly white in the manga. I don't get why. At least the anime coloration looks more coherent. In the next 3 chapters, the plot relocates to a brand new stage, Jingle Village, as Goku is rescued by a red-headed girl named Snow, voiced by Naoko Watanabe in the anime, poor and current Chi-Chi. I can't wait to get to that. And is ready to save the village chief who was imprisoned by the Red Ribbon in person inside the Muscle Tower. Despite General White Soldier's attempt to stop him on his way to the tower, Goku easily defeats them in what's a pretty engaging sequence and climbs up the building with his Nyoibo, up to the 3rd floor, in which he has to fight against Sergeant Metallic, an android blatantly inspired by T-800 from the Terminator series, in chapters 58 and 59. Look, I don't want to sound that fastidious, but the fact of the matter is I like to be transparent, and whenever there is the need to spit some criticism, I tend to seize the opportunity. That said, with the exception of 3 fights of the entire franchise, including movies, battles against gigantic opponents are kinda boring. I'm not joking, this battle is pretty dull in the manga, and the fact that the TV series extended it even more, it inevitably makes it a lot more boring. Metallic is a boring android, which is sufficient for me to consider this part the weakest of the Muscle Tower section. And honestly, in Keiji Terui's script, he just won't die. He doesn't even flinch without his head on, which is indeed frustrating not because Metallic is tough or whatever, but more like for being a boring showdown without too many strategies. At any rate, Goku defeats him and can reach the 4th floor, where he has to take on Ninja Murasaki following several steps, like playing hide and seek, running and commonplace brawls. Chapters 60 and 61 are humongous upgrades over the Metallic Boar. They might even be my favorite chapters so far. They feel so complete. They possess action, they possess comedy, they even possess the USA flag. There is an actually fun foe like Murasaki, brilliantly voiced by Takeshi Ono, who would play Piccolo Daimao and God within a few years. And finally, both characters use strategy, from Murasaki's shuriken, cold traps and camouflaging skills to Goku using his instinct. So great stuff. Clearly the anime always displays this questionable habit of gaslighting an upcoming foe, but it doesn't bother much in this case, because Murasaki struggles only because Goku is better than him. Though the darkness of 4th floor before the ninja's appearance is a nice little detail. The rest is pretty much analogous to Toriyama's panels, and is just as great as in the original. In chapter 62, not even Murasaki's multiform can deal any damage to Son Goku, so he has to resort to Red Ribbon's ultimate creation, another android, or Jinzo Ningen in Japanese, artificial human number 8, clearly built around a Dr. Slump background character who was based on the Frankenstein monster. The output of the TV series marks the definition of a mixed bag, since the battle between Goku and Murasaki's twins is lengthened, much like the Metallic one, but this time for the best, as it actually needs to last enough to show Murasaki's skills. Sure enough, in this version Goku struggles at first from being 1 against 5, and in my opinion works a bit better. Likewise, following the animated tradition of presenting characters prior to their canon debut, the anime showcases the Jingle Village chief in prison looking actually more relaxed than expected, which is a pretty funny subversion. Then what did I not like about this episode? Well, Snowspotter returns home and learns about Goku taking on Muscle Tower, but then he appears to know too much info about Android 8, in spite of never seeing him before. Now that's oddly specific, as the trademark exposition habit handled by oddly acknowledgeable side characters for no particular reason demands. Filling up what demands no filling. Typical toy behavior. In chapter 63, Murasaki releases Android 8, who is in reality a pacifist who hates violence, but since a bomb is attached inside him, Murasaki is up to blow him up, but Goku destroys his remote control and sends him flying. The grouchy panel is hilarious for how iconic it is. Thus, the newly named Hachan decides to join him, which doesn't occur immediately in the anime as he has to take on more of White soldiers first, then is tricked by the general closing the door of his maze, also including an 8-bit minigame-like screen, making it impossible for him to reach the 5th floor. Hachan joins him only afterwards, and thanks to his help, they finally get to White's command room, but fall into his trap into that secret 5th floor where a hideous creature Bouillon is awaiting them. The subsequent fight looks identical in both renditions, and unfortunately is just as bland as the Metallic one, but at the very least Goku's freezing strategy sort of elevates it a bit, but still gigantic enemies remain boring. Episode 40 adds a new cutscene with Snow finding a thing under her bed. Just what is it supposed to represent? An abominable mini snowman? An unspecified animal? A pile of mites? Just what is it? The Muscle Tower conflict wraps up in chapter 66, with White obviously being no match for Goku in spite of his sneaky attacks, but gains the upper hand once he holds the village chief hostage and shoots him on his back. Such a callous act causes a blasted Hatchan to unleash his pacifist wrath in what's another intense moment leading up to White getting slammed into oblivion. Now, fair and square, this is how you handle a climax properly. Toriyama's take on the Muscle Tower conclusion is perfect. Absolutely no objection. Sometimes I do believe he used to feel more comfortable without transformations or key waves, when the stakes were not that high and could only rely on narrative means, because yes, the village chief is being held hostage but still has the guts to make a joke, with him acting like a martyr at first, but then taking it all back when Goku agrees to sacrifice him. This is top-notch comedic timing. On the other hand, albeit similar, the anime exhibits some fallacies, like White knowing Goku's tail weakness without even observing it once, or Hatchan's pacifism portrayed as shitting on his robotic pants like terror, which I would understand why he would behave like that, but doesn't actually justify its means. Despising violence is one thing, stressing such a character trait up to 11 is kinda exasperating. Overall, it's pretty clear the manga has outdone the anime so far, simplicity and linearity over irrelevant insight. Oh, and one more thing, in this version exclusively, Hatchan destroys Muscle Tower, which gains some more importance to an upcoming thorny filler episode. In chapter 67, everyone is safe and sound and celebrates the village chief's deliverance. Hatchan gets to live at his house, but Goku's radar doesn't work anymore, so he needs Bulma's help to fix it. Yet that's not what happens in the anime, at least not right away, as Hatchan declines the chief's offer, revealing he's got a bomb inside, which Toriyama forgot to mention, and I assume it will become a key during the Z era, and only one person in Jingle Village is able to remove it. Renowned Dr. Frappe, voiced by the narrator, who apparently was the one who created Android 8 in the first place. Yes, this is Legend of the Big Ball level of unfortunate. Toei tried so hard to invent a backstory that would backfire within several years because the author would ignore all the Frappe stuff in favor of Dr. Gero. And even assuming that their backstory might be true, then Android 8 shouldn't be Frappe's sole creation according to their logic. But who am I kidding? There can hardly be any logic in the anime if Murasaki did actually survive the demolition of Muscle Tower. Only in the anime. He never appears again in the manga for being presumably deceased. The knapsack misunderstanding with him stealing Brock's donuts instead of the Dragon Balls is pretty funny, I admit that. But in short, this episode doesn't feel that indispensable content-wise. It's not a particularly compelling filler either, and again, there is no factual way Murasaki could ever survive the destruction of Muscle Tower. Moving on, neither Frappe in the anime nor Hatchan in the manga is able to repair the Dragon Radar, so Goku has to reach West City, and it turns out magic clouds like Kinto never die. Hehehe, dumbass. Which means Silver never destroyed it. He's just worthless, isn't he? Goku departs, bidding farewell to Hatchan and the Jingle Village, thus leaving the Muscle Tower section behind. The anime plays another insert song during his Kinton trip to West City, named simply Son Goku Song, a quite catchy and silly tune sung by Masako Nozawa in The Flash, whose lyrics narrate his life and backstory. And no, she doesn't say Waku Waku in the song, too bad. Nice electric guitar intro though. The same episode, the 43rd, also changes the eye catch animation, with Goku and Muten Roshi replacing the older one with Oolong, which is going to be used for the remainder of the series, even after the 23rd Budokai timeskip. They're never going to replace it. If on one hand I appreciate the fact they updated the older eye catch, I still wonder why Toei would keep the mini Gohan eye catch for 199 episodes in Z later on. Why are they so incoherent? Anyway, chapter 69 introduces Dr. Brief and Panchi Brief, Bulma's charming parents, who happen to be bloody rich, as her father is founder and proprietor of Capsule Corporation. Joji Yanami, the narrator, and Mariko Mukai, Midori from Dr. Slump, voice the two, and their light-hearted personalities harshly clash with Bulma's short temper, as the former believes the policeman is that Song-kun she told him about, whereas the latter doesn't hesitate to offer alcohol to a minor one bit. Amazing duo, their scenes and lines in this chapter are gold, as the two easily get on Bulma's nerves either by asking brazen questions or by rubbing her toxic jealousy in her face, further emphasized by their nonchalant and serene tone as opposed to Bulma's annoyance. So, thanks to her invention, the microband, she willingly joins Goku in his 4-star quest, but the anime opens another subplot, yet incentivized by the manga in good part, the infamous drama between Bulma and Yamcha, according to which he became so popular with the girls that Toriyama decides he's in the wrong by default. I mean, his so-called fangirls literally shout out his name outside her very own house in the anime, which is plain ridiculous if you ask me. Just whoever does that. And you may think, since Toei proved that he has fangirls now, he might actually be in the wrong after all. Well, he would be wrong if he let himself drag by some sort of hormonal storm and took advantage of his popularity to get laid. However, the reality is he's never shown cheat on Bulma, at least deliberately, in either version, whereas someone else flirted with transformed Oolong, wondered if Jackie Chun was handsome, drooled over a gay misogynist, and would not hesitate to share her bed with an aggressive midget in the future. Therefore, can anyone remind us who is truly in the wrong? In addition, once he finds out Bulma hates him in the same episode, he's completely upset, which of course sounds totally like something a guy with a dirty conscience would do. I get it, Toriyama doesn't care for romance, and neither does Toei, but I like his tries better when he treats romance like a joke, since they're not meant to be taken that seriously, which is indeed okay. But the anime is underlining such a drama so much, there is hardly any room for gags left to an extent. And worst of all, there is barely any opposition to Bulma's delusion, despite she's actually the one in the wrong, not due to her juvenile infatuations, but for her lousy hypocrisy. Oolong and Pooh are supporting Yamcha is a very humane moment, and they even badmouth Bulma for being a spoiled brat, which is an unorthodox communication, but it essentially pinpoints the bitter truth. It's a small chunk of opposition, but I'm going to take it regardless, it hardly ever happens. Then again, Goku suddenly wants to enter a mid-air amusement park, so any drama must be left behind, yet the same cannot be stated for the Red Ribbon Army, eager to stalk him wherever he goes to. Next time on Manga Against Anime, the Husky Filler and enter General Blue. Apologies for mostly ranting about anime-only content, but the thing is, this arc is packed with too many narrative concessions. It kinda loses the simplicity of Toriyama's panels. Up to now I find the manga version superior. I wonder if it will keep this up in the next chapters.